Welcome to the Chey UKC Distinguished Sponsor Forum, Deep Tech Innovation, Transforming Idea into Impact. I'm Young-Kee Kim. I'm Professor of Physics at the University of Chicago and will be serving as today's moderator. The term Deep Tech Innovation was first introduced by Indian venture capitalist Swati Chaturvedi. It refers to breakthroughs based on original technologies with the potential to profoundly impact society. It spans diverse fields such as biotechnology, computer science, energy, clean tech, and new materials. Yet, deep tech is characterized by its problem-oriented approach and the convergence of various technologies rather than any single field. As a driving force of innovation, deep tech has gained interesting global attention in recent years. However, the gap between science, entrepreneurship, and investment has impeded the growth of a vibrant ecosystem. Today, we are privileged to bring together leading experts from these three areas to engage in in-depth discussions on the critical elements of innovation. We hope this forum will offer valuable insights into what deep tech truly is, how to foster successful deep tech ventures, how to strengthen the ecosystem, and what the future holds for this transformative domain. To kickstart the forum, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Young-Kee for our opening remarks. Dr. Young-Kee is currently a partner at the Sehan Ventures. He had served as a CTO of SK Telecom and as a senior engineering manager at Apple. Dr. Kim was a key person in Apple's Siri project, now contributing to tech science in Korea as a visionary.
Thank you, Professor Kim, for the introduction. It's my honor and privilege to be here with you at UKC. Obviously, we have a fantastic group of panelists and speakers, and I'm really honored to be a part of this really esteemed list of experts. They asked me to give you a 5-minute presentation as an introduction to the wonderful talks that will be given later. So I actually condensed what I call the Deep Tech Entrepreneurial Journal. It's a journal that I wrote in my 20-some-odd years of entrepreneurship, starting up 3 companies. But it's a 5-minute version, so it's very condensed. Tough tech is also a synonym for deep tech. And deep tech is a transformative technology solving the world's most difficult, important, large challenges and problems through the convergence of breakthrough science, engineering, and leadership. Now, all these 3 are extremely challenging on its own, but you have to converge all 3 to make this happen. Since 2000, I've been involved in 3 startups. I call them startups because we starve. We don't have a lot of money. Some lessons from my journey of starting 3 startups are distill, demo, persuade, align, and vision. I'll go over each one of them. First is vision and purpose. Why are you trying to embark on this journey? Why embark on this particular journey from your ideas? So this is very important because you can actually spend a lot of time on other journeys. Why does this have to be your journey? Number 2 is something that we miss a lot. A lot of scientists, engineers, technologists like myself, if we're excited about an idea, we suddenly get really excited, and then we miss the point of why that matters to not me, or not surrounding people, but why it actually matters to the world. Why is this problem worth solving? And 3 is very important as well, because business and markets and projects like these are very, very temporally sensitive. So why do it now? Why can't you do it 10 years later? Why couldn't you have done it 5 years ago?
Once the idea is formed, you have to put this into an essence. You have to distill it. It has to be clear, and it has to be concise. For instance, Y Combinator, which is a very well-known, famous accelerator of startups here in the Valley, has this motto for them: make something people want. And they'll actually invest and nurture companies that make something people want. Now, personally, I think it's a good motto. If I had a combinator like that, let's say Young Combinator, I would say no. You have to make something that people love and cannot do without. Like and want are things that could be rather temporary, but when you love something, or when you encounter something that you cannot do without, and you feel pain without it, that's what you should make, and I think it really applies to the area of deep tech. So after the idea is formed and you're able to explain it concisely and clearly, you have to persuade others, including as scientists and engineers, investors, partners, business people who understand and can be kind of your I guess, companion in the journey. But before convincing others about the idea, you have to truly convince yourself. And this is a very hard exercise because we're biased. It's confirmation bias, decision bias, idea bias. You have to try to understand and think of ways that your ideas may not be successfully executed. And this is hard, but I think this is necessary because it also helps us to form good plans and good strategies to compensate and to counter such risks and such challenges. In persuading investors and also partners and customers, demos can be very effective. And some of you might know Chinese, but when I was growing up in Korea, we had this particular Chinese phrase that seeing is much more valuable than just saying. So I'd say a picture is worth 1,000 words in English, and a demo is worth 1,000 pictures. Because by demonstrating what you have and why that matters to the world, you are convincing yourself and others of the potential. And in the act of creating a demonstration, you can actually foster and nurture imagination. Imagination by people who look at your technology, right? Now, this needs practice and iteration. And not all items for deep tech can be demonstrable. But if you can expand the concept of a demo is not a live demo that you see in Apple keynotes. It could also be a concept or a proof of concept that's very specific and realizable and very pragmatic. So think of demonstrations as the manifestation of your core idea into the real world so that non-technologists, people who don't know anything about your technology, can relate to it, right? I think this is a very effective tool to start up your journey. This is hard. I call it long short-term innovation. What it is you have to put together a series of short-term innovations, but try to align them so that they get to the end goal. Now, your end goal is the top of that mountain, and the photo actually purposefully does not show the mountain at the top because we don't know what the top is. And it can get really cloudy and stormy and hairy and really dangerous as you go up the top. However, if you can align your next goal or the goal after to the ultimate goal of where you want to go, and if there's a good middle ground you can meet, it's a very effective tool for planning what you should do next, what research, what technology, what product you should design and develop next. And so you go backwards, forwards, and then at a certain point, hopefully, on middle ground, there's something that you can put as a common place, a milestone. And then you work towards it each and every day. It becomes different. So tomorrow, the now becomes different, right? Next year, now becomes different. For instance, I understand that Amogy, or President of Amogy, was going to talk about the now and the next and the ultimate, right? So you can have examples of these things, of how you iterate, but it's not iteration that's Brownian in nature. It's an iteration that gets you somewhere. So align short and long-term goals, much easier said than done, but very important. This is also important, especially in the context of Koreans. For those of you who grew up in Korea, we're very success-oriented. all of you are very successful. I'm sure that's why you're here. And we do not tolerate failures. What that means is that after a failure, a post-mortem session could be actually mortal. It could be very painful. What did I do wrong? What went wrong? What could have I done better? Is too biased, and that's human nature in psychology. However, in order to be very balanced, you have to continuously and faithfully analyze both successes and misses along your way. Even if your project is very successful, it does not mean that you have done everything right. So look at things that you've done wrong, and despite that, it succeeded. On the other hand, if you fail, it's not failure as a whole. It's partly a failure. You must have done something really right, and despite that, it failed. So to get insights and lessons from both successes and failures, both large and small, are very important, not for this particular journey, for any journey that involves entrepreneurship. So in a nutshell, as I close, purpose. Think about why the problem you're trying to solve is important to the world, and why now. The idea and the value proposition has to be very simple, very concise, and very clear. And you got to convince yourself truly. And the key word is truly there. You can convince yourself kind of, but unless you are truly convinced, there is no chance you can convince others. This I already talked about, the importance of demos. Aligning short and long-term goals is very important for deep tech because in deep tech, you don't really know what's going to happen. A lot of uncertainties and variabilities. And it takes a long, long time. So in order to do this, you have to constantly align those two things, short-term goals and long-term goals. And finally, balanced analyses of successes and failures are some of the things that I kind of extracted from my journal. Thank you so much.
Now we have the keynote speakers. Dr. Soo-In Lee is a Paul G. Allen Endowed Professor at Allen School of Computer Science and Engineering at University of Washington. She has received several prestigious awards, including the NSF Career Award, the International Society for Computational Biology Innovator Award, and the Hoam Prize as the first woman to receive the Engineering Award. Today, her talk's title is Explainable AI for Health, Where We Are and How to Move Forward. Dr. Lee, please.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm here to present some kind of technology that may be new to people who are thinking about are actually working on startups. It is called explainable AI. A crucial aspect of AI applications in startups or healthcare context in general is AI transparency, meaning you want to understand the reasoning process of AI models. So this aligns closely with the goals of this new emerging field, explainable AI. It's a subfield of AI dedicated to improving interpretability of AI models. So in this talk, I'm going to present some of the research projects from my lab that focuses on explainable AI in the healthcare domain, and then explores how to improve it. Okay. So all the work was primarily done by my team. It's an incredible group of passionate researchers pursuing PhDs in computer science, including the MSTP students who are concurrently working toward their MD, medical doctors, and PhD degrees in computer science. So we work on a broad spectrum of problems in A, B, C fields. One, A, developing explainable AI techniques and principles, and B, biology for identifying and treating challenging diseases, our current focus being cancer and Alzheimer's disease, and C, developing and auditing clinical AI models. Okay, so today's talk will consist of two parts. First part will introduce the concept of explainable AI. For many of you, it might be the first time to even hear this term. In its traditional sense, with examples demonstrating how explainable AI can enhance problem solving in healthcare and in practice, many real-world problems. And then the second part will delve into how explainable AI can build trust and transparency in clinical AI models. Okay, so what is explainable AI? So it's probably the term I said most frequently up to now. So the key goal of explainable AI, or XAI, is to understand why a certain output was generated from a complex machine learning model, such as dementia onset risk prediction model. When we have a set of patient features and a reliably trained machine learning model, we can predict various kinds of clinical outcomes accurately. However, in traditional machine learning paradigms, we couldn't answer a very natural question in terms of why a certain prediction was made. And it is because with large modern data sets, the best accuracy is often achieved by complex models even experts struggle to interpret. So the idea of explainable AI is to explain the output of a black box machine learning model based on the contributions of input features for each individual prediction. And my lab has developed a series of explainable AI techniques. One notable example is Shapley additive explanations, led by my former student, Scott Lernberg. And it's a general framework applicable to any model and has desirable theoretical properties that set it apart from other methods in this domain. So to give you a very basic idea in terms of how it works, the core question here is how much adding a feature I, certain feature I, changes the model output. That measures how much is important. This, of course, depends on which other features the model also considers. So we can think about evaluating all possible subsets of features and average the change across them. So this approach, it is rooted in actual cooperative game theory, mathematical theorems that ensures that these SHAP values or Shapley values satisfy fairness axioms, these desirable properties as an explainable AI method. So we can guarantee that the solutions are actually accurate, meet all these desirable properties from mathematical theorems. Okay? So it's really important to compute these Shapley values and measure and use that as a measure of importance for each feature in this black box machine learning model. The challenge, though, is that the complexity, of this properly removing features from a machine learning model. A machine learning model requires a complete set of features. Additionally, considering all possible subsets of features would, introduce a significant computational complexities. Okay, so this makes a challenging computer science problem. Now, before I put you to sleep, let's quickly switch gears to discuss our journey in terms of how much this helps real-world problems, in biomedical field especially. So using one of these developments, it is called the TreeShap, we revealed individualized risk factors of chronic kidney disease, all-cause mortality, or other clinical conditions. And then these results can give you new insights in terms of what are important, what patient features are important for these conditions. And in our very first project, many years ago, applied the paper on SHAP, we tackled the question of whether explainable AI can help improve the clinician's ability to predict clinical conditions in anesthesia care. Because surgery and anesthesia, as we know, are integral part of healthcare, but pose considerable risk of complication and even death sometimes. So we focused on an unwanted physiological condition called hypoxemia, meaning low blood oxygen level that causes various patient harms. So if hypoxemia can be predicted before it occurs, then anesthesiologists can do something, take actions to proactively prevent hypoxemia or minimize patient harm. So for that, we developed a prescience method that can predict the near-term risk of hypoxemia. But what's really useful here is it can also explain the factors that led to that risk. So prescience outputs, such as risk prediction and its explanations, which show a set of risks that increase the risk, that's purple-colored, and a decrease, the green-colored, the risk. Okay, so the plot at the bottom here is equivalent to rotating this explanation bar at a certain time point by 90 degrees and then stacking these explanations for each time point horizontally. So you can see this trend, from this risk trend that a large increase in risk at the current time point was mainly driven by tidal volume, meaning a drop in patients' tidal volume of gas exhaled per breath. And then a patient under anesthesia is connected to a ventilator. They don't breathe by themselves. And tidal volume is something you can adjust using a ventilator. Okay? So that can give insights in terms of, to the clinicians what to do. So, and importantly, we showed that explainable prediction can improve an anesthesiologist's ability to predict clinical outcomes in a user study using a web-based interface. So this ensures that both patients and anesthesiologists are given the exact same amount of information as input. Anesthesiologists can anticipate 15% of the events. Then the patient's aides, they can anticipate 30% of the events, and meaning millions of additional detection of hypoxemia in the US annually. Okay? So, and that was the first application-oriented paper on SHAP, this new, first explainable AI technique. In one of the most recent use cases, my student, Wei, and I focused on biological age. So our method, we called it Enable Age. It estimates the individual's biological age based on their demographic, laboratory examination, and questionnaire features totaling 825 features. And then we trained the model by using UK Biobank data from 500,000 people using mortality as a surrogate label. So here's how it works. For a 65-year-old person who turned out to be 72 in terms of the biological age, the explanations that increase or decrease the biological age come with the exact extent in the unit of years, which makes it even more interpretable. So for example, of course, cancer diagnosis accelerate biological age, and then also there's another one, Cysteine C, that measures the kidney function, also turned out to be really important factor for biological age in general. So these explanations are provided for various mortality causes, and then also we identified the potential genetic factors for age acceleration. Now, in comparison with the other biological age clocks, so there are more, many existing biological age clocks, and then we show that Enable Age can more accurately predict 5-year mortality or 10 years mortality in the held out data experiments, and then we also defined many kinds of Enable Age clocks based on the types of input features it utilizes. Okay, so for more, we're featured on the cover of December last year, Lancet Healthy Longevity Journal. Okay, so in the second part, so we'll explore now how explainable AI can catalyze the development of a new research avenue, especially for AI auditing. So during the pandemic, there was a surge in AI models predicting COVID-19 from chest X-rays. So however, they appeared to be highly accurate within one data set in cross-validation test, but failed when they tested in hospitals external to the training data. And then later, we revealed that they learned shortcuts rather than genuine pathology. You will see what I meant by that. Using our explainable AI techniques that can highlight which features were important for the prediction. Remember, explainable AI is about identifying important features. So for example, consider this input X-ray data. It's not COVID, it's COVID negative. And it's right that the model used a clear lung basis as a reason for determining negative COVID-19 status. However, it is not right that the model used the laterality markers on the image or medical devices the patient was wearing. In this case, it's a pacemaker. So through many XAI-based analysis, we basically stop the field, move to the wrong direction. And there were already 6 published papers. Some of them are very prestigious radiology journals, and hundreds of related models out there that learned this kind of shortcuts. It turned out that the training data set was wrong. Researchers were really busy, publishing papers on COVID at that time, that they just, created training data based on one data source, positive labels, COVID positive, and then use another source that's mostly enriched for negative labels. So basically, creating perfect confounders for this, training data set. So next year, our paper was featured in the nice, Nature Outlook article on the significance of unraveling the black box nature of AI models. And then this article, included a photo of the 2 co-first authors, the MSTP students I told you about, MD PhD students, majoring in computer science for their PhD. So the left is Alex, and then the right is Joe. Okay, so our next target is dermatology AI. So focusing on 5 models we audited, including 2 academic models, 1 Nature paper, and then 2 commercial devices, meaning cell phone apps. You'll be amazed. There are so many cell phone apps that takes your potential lesion, skin image, and they will tell you whether that's melanoma or not. So we saw similar results in terms of the held out data testing. However, when we attempt to apply traditional XAI techniques, which is a saliency map, we encountered an interesting challenge. So the saliency map basically points to the entire lesion. This is not interpretable. It's not useful at all. And so we developed a new AI auditing framework that incorporates counterfactual images. So meaning we use the generative AI technology. The idea is that you modify the original image such that it just crosses the classification boundary. So in this example, you will see this bluish region, blue-white veil. It's a dermatology term. I learned a lot of dermatology terms through this project, which usually indicates melanoma. And then, that way we will know what, this model was thinking, using this as a visual features, how this signal is perceived by the model in its reasoning. And then we worked with the 2 board-certified dermatologists who systematically characterized how such visual features are perceived by each AI model and creating humans in the loop. So, and then, the obtained result looks like this, as I said, some favorable, others are not, and then generally I wouldn't trust these apps, for in terms of this accuracy in predicting melanoma. So as I said, you have this original image, and then you make small modifications such that the AI model thinks that it's more like melanoma or more like normal. So that way you can create many pairs of images, malignant versus benign counterparts. Okay, so and then dermatologists then examine each pair and then assess how the AI model being audited perceives major visual features. Okay, all right. So this work is just one of many examples where counterfactual AI can revolutionize biomedical AI. Or biomedical industry. And then you can check out the futuristic perspective recently published in Lancet. Okay, our second solution for interpretable medical image AI is to annotate each image with a meaningful concept. So humans never process image information merely as pixels. We think about various visual concepts such as asymmetricity or border type of the lesion and coloration and so forth. So my student Chanu developed a foundation model, image text by model foundation model by fine-tuning the clip model with using 100,000 image caption, text caption pairs sourced from PubMed articles and dermatology textbooks. And then the goal is to bring together this image and text into joint embedding space so that when you have a new image, by using many dermatologically relevant terms, you can basically featureize each image in terms of this concept automatically. Okay, so in this talk, I introduced the concept of explainable AI, showing, and then also how it enhances healthcare, problem solving and the real world problems in medicine and healthcare, and then how to build the trust in clinical AI models. Again, these are crucial aspects of AI application in startups or healthcare context in general. And more broadly, I didn't have time to cover the full spectrum of our research on explainable AI. Explainable AI, as I briefly said, involves a complex computer science challenges. It's never an easy problem. And then that requires significant advancement in the AI, core AI field from machine learning perspective. And then these foundational AI advances have demonstrated a significant impact across diverse biomedical fields, including clinical medicine, cancer biology, and then also Alzheimer's disease biology, spanning all the way from basic biology to clinical medicine. Okay? So the story I was telling you today, again, is only a subset of the research we do. You can find more about our research on our website. As you saw, my lab works on many different topics in terms of ABC, crosses 3 fields. So we labeled every single paper in terms of which area it is, AI and biology and clinical medicine. Again, all the work I presented today was done by my student. I haven't written a single line of the code or single plot I showed you. And our lab is generously funded by NIH, NSF, American Cancer Society, CCI, and Genentech. The size of the logo is actually roughly proportional to the size of the support. Thank you.
Now, it's our pleasure to welcome our next keynote speaker, Dr. Jin-Hyung Lee. She is the professor of neurology, bioengineering, and electrical engineering at Stanford University. She is a recipient of numerous awards, including NIH Director's New Innovator Award, and she is the founder of LVIS, a leading technology company revolutionizing neurocare through rapid and accurate identification of complex neural network patterns. Today, she will be discussing creating a digital twin of the brain. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Lee.
Today I'm going to tell you about some of the work that we've been, since this is about deep tech and doing startups, so I'll put a little bit more focus on some of the work around how we took the work in from my lab and then we translated into creating a startup company. So generally, I work on AI and the future of brain health. If you want to define it a little further, what we've worked on is creating a digital twin of the brain. And we have also worked with various Stanford organizations to translate our findings into a startup company. So today, what I'm going to tell you about involves really all of my choices. And I just wanted to start by quoting Professor Dumbledore, who mentions to Harry, what really defines who you are is your choices, not really your abilities. And that statement, I really didn't understand how profound that was for a long time, but recently when I saw the movie again on the plane, I was like, wow, that's really profound. And so I wanted to share with you today some of my choices along those lines. So I am an electrical engineer, and I decided to work on brain health related problems when my grandmother had a stroke. And that's the first time in my life where I was like, oh my God, I really should work on this. Before that, I think I was mainly just trying to do good in school, generally interested in science. But this happened after I finished my PhD. And so I really head-on dove into neuroscience, not to start a certain field or anything like that, more to actually figure out whatever I need to do to solve this problem. And it was actually quite remarkable that there's no way to diagnose and treat any brain disorders. And so that was only made possible because of many of the generous support from various people, and I want to acknowledge all the people who read a proposal from an electrical engineer and decided, you know what, I'm going to give her a chance. And so through various support mainly from NIH, we were able to do studies to find methods to diagnose and treat brain disorders. And my lab currently, because we also have had to I didn't fit in any particular box in a university institutional structure. And so, to be honest, it's been a very difficult struggle throughout my whole career. And as a result, I belong to 2 institutions, 4 departments, and that's great, right? No, that's terrible. You have 6 bosses. But that is what made the work that I am doing possible. It was much more difficult. It took a longer time. It was a lot of pain, to be honest. But that's what led this to get all the resources together to do the research that I have conducted over the past 15 years. So brain health care is a growing concern. It's not a problem that is steady or just unresolved. It's a problem that is growing exponentially. And so neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's disease is increasing exponentially. Also developmental disorders like autism is also growing exponentially. And things like infectious disease also cause brain disorders, we recently found out. And so this is quite a serious problem. But as you can tell from the fact that it's growing exponentially, it's not just growing. It also means that whatever we're doing, all of our research community, all the industry, it's not making any difference. So it is a big deal. And it's a number 1 cause of disability. Once you have brain disorders, you're disabled. It's not just inconvenient. And there's 1 billion patients worldwide, and it's likely more because it's very hard to figure out the brain disorder, whether you even have it. And then in the US only, it costs about $1 trillion a year. And this is cost of care, not cost of cure. Since this is such a big problem, it's not a problem for any particular company, university, or research group. It's a problem for at a government level where it's becoming a very significant issue that needs to be solved. However, there has been lots of investments that went in, which led to a lot of the developments, including my own, but there is no clear solution to date. And on that note, brain health care, the brain disorder treatment's ultimate goal is actually to restore brain function. I'm sure none of you will argue with that. If you take an Alzheimer's drug, your hope and dream is to restore your memory. And if you are taking some treatment related to Parkinson's disease, you want to stop tremoring. So that is the ultimate goal of every brain disorder treatment. However, it is not surprising that we can't diagnose and treat anything because this is the state of the art of how you evaluate the brain function. So it's hard to believe given the day and age we live in, but if you actually go to the clinic and try to get a diagnosis, you'll fill out some surveys or answer some question. I don't know if you guys saw the movie Still Alice. In that movie, there's a scene where Alice is getting diagnosed by the neurologist, and the neurologist is showing you various cards. Can you remember this word? So that's the state of the art. And as an engineer, if you imagine having to solve all of your device problems by just asking questions, you can see why that's very difficult. And so the problem that I set out to solve was to create a so-called digital twin, because for any engineer to assess the system and fix it, you need to understand what algorithms underlie the creation of various behaviors that we want to restore. And so that was the goal that I had set out. And fortunately, we are able to successfully generate these digital twins. And so what we are now able to do is create brain function models that can replicate the function that we measure. And also, since you can replicate it, you can understand how it gave that function. And also, most importantly, you can predict, for example, an intervention outcome by using these models. And so those were the 3 sets of criteria that I had in mind when we were trying to set up a goal of creating a digital twin. And also, since in various neurological disorders, there's these protein aggregations that are one of the hallmark features, we also studied a lot about these pathology that forms in the brain. And we find that the brain function also has a close relationship with the pathology. And so actually one can alter the other. And also, we found a relationship between gene expression, pathology dynamics, and drug impact. We put together a methodology to find the relationship between all of these parameters. And so we're having success in doing that. And so over the past 15 years, we started by creating a brain circuit analysis technology. Then we also utilized those technology to understand the brain circuit function. And then we reached a place where we can do that, create a digital twin of the brain. And to really take this to the clinic, since my goal was not to publish papers, it was to actually make a difference in the clinic. We also created all these IP, and then these was licensed into a startup company that could potentially have the capacity to deliver these solutions to the clinic. And we're talking about deep tech here, and I'm so excited that deep tech is even an issue now, because when we first started this process, everybody was so excited about making delivery apps, and wow, that delivery app can deliver my return on investment in 1 year, 100 times. Why should I ever invest in deep tech? And so that was the environment that we were in for the past 10 years, during which time we worked on this company called Elvis. For any technology that really makes a fundamental positive change in the real world, it takes a really long time to make. And in our case, the basic science research took about 15 years, and even just the commercialization, industrialization effort itself took us 10 years, and we're launching this year. And so it's been a very, very long journey, and usually technology is visible to the general public after all of these have happened for decades. And so if I want to start working on ChatGPT-like technology after it's already publicly visible, it's kind of too late, you know? And so there are these J-curves in deep tech, which we all as a society must understand that we need to make these long-term investments in order to take leadership in any field. And so to move on to the topic of what we have done, taking some of these technology and translating it to the clinic, I founded a company called Elvis, like in Elvis Presley, but it actually stands for Live Visualization of Brain Circuits. And Elvis's goal is to really take this technology and enable things that has not been possible before, and also enabling in a way that many people can reach. Right now, because the patients are increasing in number dramatically, and there are only a few doctors who can even see the patients to assess their condition, it's difficult for any patient to even see the doctor. And so that's one of the goals that we had early in the game, and these are some of the organizations that supported our effort early on. In the US, where supposedly the doctor-patient ratio is the highest, the general neurologists, there are about 1 in 24,000. And each one of the neurological diseases, their prevalence is over 1%. And so this creates a very difficult environment for the patient to even see the doctor. And it's not like the doctor will cure you once you see them, but still, these are all debilitating disorders, so you have to see the doctor. You can't just say like, you know what, I have Alzheimer's, but I'm gonna just ride this out at home. And so you have to see a doctor. And this is what my chairman said in 2023. He walks into the faculty meeting and says, we need to do everything and anything to improve throughput of our patient care, because now I'm seeing patients at my porch because patients can't wait for all the wait time that they have. And so the problems, practically, that needed to be solved in the real world included the following. First, extreme shortage of trained specialists and technicians, really high cost because everything is really manual and it's chaotic. And you also, of course, need the improved outcome. And so we sought to address all of these problems through the product that we develop. And NeuroMatch is the name of the product that we developed. And what it allows you to do is to take the data, do everything starting from database management to creating the digital twin, all the AI process, and then also creating the report for the doctor. So it is everything fully automated that is something like 20 people's work. And this is something only available in really large hospitals in a manual process. And so with that kind of approach, the neurological disorders that we're targeting, first one is epilepsy, and the other ones that we have now worked on includes Alzheimer's, autism, and Parkinson's, and these are major problems throughout the world. And so the way we're approaching this, we will be creating a platform where we will add various applications to assess the disorders and also figure out how to treat them. So it's starting with epilepsy. We made our first epilepsy solution in 2023. We are launching them right now. And Alzheimer's, sleep, Parkinson's, and autism's are also other areas where we have found solutions to address some of the issues, and their application is under development. And so, for example, like I said, there's an extreme shortage of doctors. So epilepsy diagnosis wait time is average of 19 months in the United States. And this is because of the extreme shortage of the doctors. And even if you see them after a long wait, for them to process the data and then give you the answers, it's a manual process, and it will take something like an average of a week. But with NeuroMatch, it's also fully real time. And so that will add a lot of information on top of the deep tech science that is embedded to it. And so Elvis is now a company that is headquartered in Palo Alto. It has an office in Seoul, also in Daegu, and we are also developing therapeutics based on what we have found already. And high throughput, cost reduction, improved outcome are the goals, which is the three main goals of any healthcare. And our clients are healthcare providers, payers, insurance providers, because we can dramatically decrease the healthcare cost. And also in developing new drugs and devices, this is a critical information, so we are working with various companies on that. And also, ultimately, I envision that this kind of solution will be available to you in your daily life, where you might wake up one day and it's like, oh, today my cognitive score is not that great. Maybe I should exercise, not drink so much tonight, or something like that, where you can start to manage your own health as well. And so our goal is to diagnose and treat patients with better outcome at lower cost. So the current ecosystem of neurology healthcare is such that it's like the day and age of internet without a search engine. So all the information is completely chaotically flowing, and there is no way to organize or scale. But now that we have this solution through NeuroMatch, we can have integrated and scalable care that can organize the healthcare system to be much more efficient and also more effective. So we have been developing for about 10 years in complete stealth. We presented at the American Epilepsy Society meeting for the first time last year, and we were very well received by the doctors. And since this kind of effort is really trying to change the way the neurology clinics are organized, we are also starting NeuroMatch centers, much like an Apple store, where we will be conducting education centers, so where we have educations on site, education within the clinic, where we have clinic locations that we're creating, and also do online education. Since our solution is completely web-based, it's very scalable, and it's very easy to deploy the solution to any parts of the country or countries where this kind of care is completely unavailable. And so through these education, we're trying to scale out the solution for various people who are currently not able to have access to neurological health care. And so we, as part of our effort to start NeuroMatch centers, we opened our #1 center actually in Korea, in Daegu, on June 1st. And so this is actually the design of the wall of the center that we just opened, where through the door you're entering the brain. And our slogan is to see the invisible. And as part of our education effort, we're also launching what we call a Neuro Forum. And the first inaugural forum was held at the Gyeongbok National University, where we opened our first NeuroMatch Center. And this event was held on very short notice on June 28th. And we had very, very good reception from all the doctors we invited to see the product for the first time, and also participate in our panel and give presentations, and also from patients groups who attended to understand the technology. And so in Korea, we started installation of NeuroMatch at 10 large hospitals, and the 10 hospitals include the 4 largest hospitals in Seoul, and also there are 6 hospitals in Daegu, I found out, and all 6 hospitals. So in the 10 hospitals, we've started installation. We're almost done now. And also, as part of the effort to create these neuromatch centers, we're also creating a neuromatch institute/clinic in Palo Alto at our headquarters. And so this is our headquarter building, and we are in the process of creating the clinic in our office. And since this is something that is of interest to many people at the government level, also we are working closely with the city of Palo Alto and also with the California state to help support these institutes in clinic development. Neuromatch, what it will do is transform brain health care from an era of rickshaws. That's actually not an exaggeration. Where in the clinic, people are trying to manually understand things which are close to impossible. And even when you can do it, it's like pulling a rickshaw because it's very hard and it takes a really long time and you don't move that far. But now we can transform this to an era of automobiles where you can start driving around fancy cars. And with this effort, another area that we're branching into is to try and enable next generation AI. And I would like to emphasize that there are benefits to solving problems fundamentally when you try and approach things. And while we are very excited about all the AI developments currently, I'm actually not as excited as many people are, because one of the big downsides of the current AI is that the energy consumption level is extremely high. As impressive as ChatGPT is, I think it's really unimpressive compared to all of us, because it uses like huge data centers, and then at the end of the day, it makes some fake sentences. But look at what we can do while just eating maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And so in terms of energy efficiency, it doesn't even compare. And many of the reasons why our system is designed the way we are is because of the energy efficiency from my point of view. And so if we continue the current effort of AI, we'll run out of energy. And even already now, we see that sometimes, the data center must be cooled and it's like kept under a very cold temperature. Well, we have to save energy, so we're in a room where things are very hot. And so current AI is definitely not energy efficient, and what this is placing us in is a situation like the Matrix. In a way, we're giving up all the energy to the AI, and is that really serving us? I'm not so sure. But so far, what we've been working on was create AI that can actually solve brain disorders, but in the process of figuring out how the brain works through this effort of trying to solve brain disorders, we found out some principles on how the brain does computations. And brain definitely does computations very differently from the von Neumann architecture. And that's why we can do things better in terms of what AI-type things are, like seeing patterns and recognizing people. We're better at it, but we can't really do like 100th decimal point calculation that the computer is really good at. And so for AI, artificial intelligence purposes, I would think that human intelligence mimicking might give us a much better clue, especially in terms of energy efficiency. And so what we are now finding out about the brain is now enabling us to design energy efficient AI for the next generation. And I would like to emphasize that this is perhaps the benefit of taking the path of strongest resistance and kind of trying to solve the problem once and for all when you start trying to do that. And I would like to emphasize that energy-efficient AI is the only version that will transform our future for the better, since once we are in the competition angle for the energy with AI, it's very unlikely to serve the humans. It might rather rule over us. And so to create a much better future for us, I think it would be very important to focus on coming up with energy-efficient AI. So, in short, talking about choices, I found a problem I'm passionate about, I'm hopefully good at solving, and that has great societal need for solving. And I generally took the path of strongest resistance while relying on my value system for the most difficult decisions. And hopefully, Professor Dumbledore approves. Thank you very much.
Now, our last keynote speaker will be Dr. Wu, CEO and co-founder of Amogy, a tech startup building an innovative, portable, carbon-free energy system using ammonia as a renewable fuel. He was selected as a Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia in 2018. He is the recipient of a Presidential Young Scientist Award in South Korea in 2018. Today, he will be discussing ammonia, the key to enabling the hydrogen economy.
Okay, so yeah, first of all, I wanted to thank the organizer and Chey Institute for this opportunity. And it is my honor to share this floor together with the excellent other speakers and also the panelists today as well. So before starting my presentation, I briefly wanted to introduce myself and my journey. So I was trained as a scientist and engineer. So I went to postdoc in Korea for my college, and I proceeded to MIT for my PhD program, both in material science and engineering. And then I went back to Korea to KIST, Korea Institute of Science and Technology, for my military service, and went back to the United States for a job at IBM. So throughout the whole career, my expertise was more about the condensed matter physics. So I was one of the graduate students essentially watching Professor Kim from the very far distance at every March APS meetings. And after all this journey, I wanted to start a company. And with that passion and motivation, I started this company together with amazing people, and I've been building this company together with amazing people that we were able to find throughout the journey. So I'm excited to share our journey as well as the problem that we are solving. So today, the presentation is about ammonia and how this can enable the hydrogen economy, basically to solve the heavy industry decarbonization problem. So this may sound very new, so to relate it a little bit more to each of you here on the floor. So if you think about the decarbonization, you will probably think about the electrification, Tesla, and electric vehicles, which is amazing achievements that we are advancing, which is becoming the mainstream of the industry. However, if you take a step back and look at the whole decarbonization from the carbon emission perspective, electrification of the small vehicle only accounts for roughly 5 to 7% out of the entire CO2 coming out of the industry. The bigger problem that we have to solve as a generation is the decarbonization of the heavy industry. Power generation, steel making, manufacturing, like heavy industries like shipping and aviation, which is the global backbone of the economy. However, we cannot use the battery because those industries require highly energy-dense molecules like carbon. So because of the issue and also because we acknowledge that we have to solve this problem, we started talking about one molecule, which is the hydrogen. So if you think about hydrogen, hydrogen has a lot of the amazing advantages to become the next fuel. It is abundant, there's a lot of hydrogen, and also hydrogen technologies are commercial. Producing hydrogen and also using hydrogen using technology like electrolysis or fuel cells are well mature enough. In addition to that, there is a number of governments and countries subsidizing those hydrogen-based economy, giving the subsidy through IRA in the United States, and something similar in other countries like Korea and Japan as well. So from business perspective, this is amazing business opportunity too. If you think about the whole heavy industries starting to use a different fuel, hydrogen, instead of the carbon fuel, this is going to be generating tremendous amount of the opportunity for the stakeholders in the heavy industries as well, so that we can finally solve this problem using the new molecule hydrogen. So as most of you are Korean, we've heard a lot about hydrogen in Korea in particular for the last probably 5 to 6 years, because we really tried hard. But the biggest problem in Korea, I mean not in Korea, in hydrogen, is hydrogen's fundamental property, making it really, really difficult to store and transport economically. So I'm basically showing the map where the production cost of the hydrogen is different depending on the reasons. So areas like the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Australia is still going to be the area where you can cheaply produce the hydrogen, while countries like Korea, Japan, Singapore, most of the European countries, we don't have high quality renewable power. So we have to import the energy, even if the energy is changing from carbon fuels to the hydrogen. Then you might ask, already, today we are importing all of these energy from Saudi Arabia, oil and gas. We don't have oil and gas coming out of the South Korea. But if you think about the hydrogen, the bigger problem is transportation and storage of the hydrogen is very, very expensive. So let's think about the scenario where you produce hydrogen from Saudi Arabia and bring it all the way to Korea. So in countries like the Middle East, you can produce hydrogen at the cost of roughly $2 to $3 per kilogram. However, as you have to liquefy the fuel, like to the negative 250 Celsius, and transport it all the way to Korea, the cost adds up significantly. So at the point of the use, the price of the hydrogen becomes $15. Today, California, hydrogen cost is roughly $20 per kilogram, while the production cost is only $1 or $2. So because of this huge problem, we can't really use hydrogen as a fuel because we also know the price of the energy impacts so much to our lives. So to solve this problem, we can use a different molecule called ammonia. So for those who may not be familiar with ammonia, ammonia is the second most produced chemical in the world, heavily used as a fertilizer. So we today produce 200 million tons of the ammonia as a fertilizer. And in the United States, like the Corn Belt, you see a lot of the ammonia tank in the back of the John Deere tractor, basically using it as a fertilizer to grow the corns and all these crops. But if you look at ammonia from the fuel perspective, first of all, ammonia, NH3, does not have carbon. Among the non-carbon fuels, ammonia presents the highest energy density, 40% higher than the liquid hydrogen. And also, most importantly, ammonia can be stored at room temperature as a liquid. Therefore, this is very cost-effective to store and transport. Ammonia is the synthesized chemical, so we use hydrogen as feedstock of the ammonia. So if you think about the production of the ammonia, you'd naturally think that ammonia should be more expensive because you're using hydrogen as a feedstock. However, the logistical advantage of the ammonia, meaning while the production cost may be more expensive, 5%, 10%, but the logistics cost is almost minimal. So if you think about using ammonia as a fuel from countries like Korea, effective hydrogen cost is becoming half of it, like 40% of the hydrogen cost as a hydrogen. So this is what ammonia makes hydrogen economy much more economical and cost effective. But at the end of the day, if you have ammonia brought to Korea from Saudi Arabia, then you have to use it as a fuel. But unfortunately, even if we knew that ammonia has higher energy density, infrastructure is already there because we are using it as a fertilizer, there has not been any technology converting ammonia to power yet. Because if you think about the heavy industry, like power generation today, or the shipping today, we essentially burn all these fuels using engines, turbines. But ammonia is not combustible, so there's no way that you can burn ammonia. You could burn ammonia by mixing ammonia together with coal or the diesel, then you start generating greenhouse gas again. So when we were starting our business and the company, Amogy, we really tried to find a solution, technology solution, which can convert the ammonia to power without generating the emissions. So that was the motivation behind starting the company Amogy roughly 4 years ago. So I wanted to introduce a little bit more about our company and how we are trying to find a solution and finally try to commercialize the solution in the market as well. So Amogy is roughly 4 years old startup company based in Brooklyn. So I started the company from a startup incubator based in Brooklyn, and now we have an office in Brooklyn, Houston, and a couple of small international offices, one in Singapore and Norway as well. So we have 180 people working together, mostly based in the States. And also as a startup company, we have closed 4 financing rounds in the last roughly 4 years. So starting from the $3 million seed funding in 2021 from a VC called AP Ventures based in London. And then we mainly source the funding from strategic investors like Amazon, Aramco, and also SK Innovation, who's been the greatest supporter of the company up to this point, and also companies like Mitsubishi and Temasek and more. So in a nutshell, our technology is the combination of hydrogen fuel cell and then ammonia cracking. So first on the hydrogen fuel cell side, hydrogen fuel cell is not a new technology. We have commercialized technology over the last 50 years. Fuel cell has the commercial vehicle like the fuel cell cars Nexo, Mirai, Exient. But the fuel cell has never been able to take off, not because of the fuel cell, because of the fuel being so expensive. Therefore, we combine this fuel cell with our ammonia cracking technology. So ammonia cracking is a chemical process which basically takes ammonia. There is a bunch of the cracking catalyst inside which cracks ammonia and makes it to be hydrogen. Then locally produced hydrogen goes to the fuel cell to generate electricity. So we essentially combined all these processes, a single integrated packaged product, which then takes ammonia as a fuel, then it generates electricity. Because I know that there are many engineers and scientists here, I wanted to go a little bit deeper on the technology side as well. So the fundamental innovation side of our technology on the left is highly efficient ammonia cracking catalyst. Because ammonia cracking is not a new technology. Chemical companies like KBR, Air Products, Air Liquide, they all had ammonia cracking technology over the last 50 years. But their cracking technology, fundamental catalyst, usually operates at like 800 Celsius or even higher temperature. So you need a very large balance of plant and system, basically the chemical plants to do the cracking. Then we substantially reduce this temperature to roughly half of it so that you can crack the ammonia to hydrogen at the very low temperature. Therefore, you could remove all the unnecessary equipments like balance plants and heat exchange to make it very compact. So starting from this fundamental catalyst innovation, we then built the world's most efficient ammonia cracking cracker itself, basically the chemical reactor, taking ammonia and producing the hydrogen. And on top of this ammonia cracking chemical reactor, we system integrated the entire process from the ammonia cracking to the hydrogen fuel cell to generate electricity, which is the most valuable product. So based on this technology I believe may be new to most of you. So when we were first pitching this technology to the investors and the partners, nobody really believed it. So we decided to do a lot of demos. So the opening remark by Yoon was really resonating with me because showing the demo was really the biggest success factor for the company to come to this stage at the moment. So when we had a $3 million of the funding, we built a drone. We essentially bought a drone, a company called Doosan Mobility Innovation in Korea. So they have a hydrogen-powered drone. And then we retrofit to ammonia-powered drone by replacing hydrogen storage to ammonia storage and ammonia cracking. So by doing so, you can demonstrate that, first of all, ammonia can actually be used as a fuel. And the second, typically drones can fly half an hour using the battery, about an hour, hour and a half using the hydrogen. But this one has capability to fly 2.5 to 3 hours. So that's the energy density piece that we were able to demonstrate. Then we started attracting more partners and investors. And then we started scaling up technology. So in the subsequent year, we did another demo, which was ammonia-powered John Deere tractor. So we bought a John Deere tractor and retrofit into our technology, basically the same fundamental technology, but we scaled up technology roughly 20 times bigger within about an year of the timeline. And we did another demo in last year, 2023 as well. So this was 3 times bigger than the tractor. So the Class A truck powered by ammonia. In particular, we designed this truck to have the same equivalent electric energy as the Tesla Semi. So 10 hours of operation is possible. But now you can refill the tank within 7 minutes because you are using the liquid fuel. So that really demonstrated rapid scalability of this technology, probably more on the execution of the team Amogy. So after this series of the demonstrations, then we were able to attract global investors last year. So the company was able to close $150 million Series B. So from that moment, we started really looking to the market. How can we commercialize this technology into the market? So if you think about commercializing our technology into the market, of course, making technology mature enough is important. However, we are essentially asking for a customer to change the fuel fundamentally from carbon fuels to ammonia. Then it's not just about the technology. You need regulation using ammonia as a fuel. You need infrastructure to bunker fuel, to like refuel basically. And you also need all these other stakeholders existing in the industry. That is why we chose maritime shipping as the first industry. Because in the maritime shipping, because they require such high energy density fuel, there were already activities from governments like the IMO and industry stakeholders like the port to use ammonia as a fuel even before Amogy. So it was much easier for us to penetrate into the market. But of course, from the shipping stakeholders' perspective, even if we have been able to scale up technology all the way to the truck is such a small vehicle compared to the large vessels. So this year, we are demonstrating the world's first ammonia-powered ship ourselves. So we started this project roughly 2 years ago. So we bought a 70-year-old diesel tugboat, which was mostly abandoned in the American shipyard. And then we've been retrofitting this boat ourselves using our technology together with the regulators and our partners to really show that our technology can also work in the maritime environment, can be scaled into this scale. And this month, we started testing this technology into the boat as well, as you can see from here. So we are expecting to formally announce when the completion of the test is happening in the next months. But our technology is looking like this. We are not a shipbuilding company. We are a technology provider. So we have come up with the first generation of the prototype, essentially the product of the Amogy, and they put this product into our own boat to demonstrate the last demonstration that we can actually use the technology for moving the vehicle like the ships. So after this series of the demonstration, which we are successfully completing over the course of the 4 years, now we are starting to think about starting to really commercialize our technology in the actual market, like the shipping or the power generation. So for the last few minutes, I wanted to introduce our upcoming activities, especially around the commercialization of this technology. So since we closed last year Series B, we started putting some of the capital, roughly $40 million, for building the first manufacturing site. So we are completing this manufacturing build-out probably towards the end of 2024 this year, so that we can start manufacturing of our products starting from the next year, 2025. So our product looked like this. So we call it Power Pack, but the most equivalent would be the engine. So essentially, ship owners or the power generators are going to be able to adopt multiple of these modules to generate the multi-megawatt power. And as we commercialize our technology, we started pitching this idea to our customers. And really the biggest benefit of our technology is the economics. So on the left side, we first compared the greenhouse gas emission coming out of different technology. The biggest advantage, first of all, is because we are not burning anything, our greenhouse gas emission is almost zero. So compared to the conventional diesel system, and even compared to the other ammonia-based approaches, burning ammonia together with something else. Because of this emission reduction potential, this helps unit economics to become much smaller. Especially in the shipping, the government, like the European Union, started putting the carbon tax starting from this year, 2024. And much more stringent measures on the carbon taxation, other policies are coming in the industry essentially from today. So because of that, even compared to the conventional fuel options like the diesel, Amogy, together with the ammonia, can provide the most economical option so that we can penetrate to the market, broader market with our early customers. So with this vision, we started also signing the commercial contract with our customers as well. So as I said earlier, our goals in the first markets are really the maritime shipping and the power generation. And each segment, we started working together with our first customers. In the shipping side, we started working together with the company called Hanwha Ocean, the Korean company, one of the largest shipbuilding company in the world. So Hanwha and Amogy is going to build the first ammonia-powered ammonia carriers, which is going to be operating commercially in the next few years. On the power generation side, we started working with a company based in Norway. So the Nordic area, where we also have our physical presence at, has more stringent regulation, therefore the strongest subsidy, so that we can expand to those markets earlier, so that we can start decarbonizing this off-grid environment. But at the same time, we see huge opportunity coming together with the expansion of the data center. So data center expansion and also other off-grid power generation, they can wait for 7-8 years of the regulation approval for getting access to the grid. Therefore, this rapid and zero-emission decarbonization solution can help them to achieve their goal, rapidly expanding the energy capacity in the future. So Amogy, while we have been able to achieve exciting journey in the first few years, we really think Amogy is really at the inception of this journey. This company is going to be needed not just for the few years, probably a few decades, 20 years or 30 years, so that we can really achieve the broader market adoption. Therefore, we can help the planet to be more sustainable, taking advantage of our technology. So hopefully the presentation was able to give you some insight about how we are trying to solve the problem that we find important. Also, thank you again for this opportunity, and looking forward to the conversation later. Thanks.
Welcome back, everyone, for our discussion session. I'm very delighted to introduce our panel member who will give brief introductory remarks, Young-Kee. Today, he will be sharing his invaluable experience in a talk titled Lessons from My Startup Journey.
Thank you. This is my second time to be in UKC, and the first thing that I noticed is every single speaker has like 12, 15 awards. I have no award. The only award I can think of is, the Parent Volunteer Award from my child's Korean school. So I probably should have put that in, but very, glad to be part of this very esteemed group. And so again, just wanted to kind of share some of the lessons that I learned from my startup journey. Again, I'm Young-Kee. I go by CK, so you can just call me CK. So my background is I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started 2 companies, and very luckily both got acquired. The first company got acquired in 2008, and the second company was acquired in 2021. So the first thing I can say about my journey is the role of timing and luck. When we sold the company, the first company to Google in 2008, we were literally like 3 weeks away from the financial crisis, and no one actually saw that coming. So, I wish we could say, hey, we saw that coming, so therefore we sold the company before the financial crisis, but nobody ever saw that coming. The second company we sold in 2021, and nobody saw 2022 coming. So the role of timing, the role of luck is very, very important for businesses, but you cannot control that. So the only thing you can do is be ready for anything that might happen, which is just the nature of business. During my companies, I raised 10 different funding rounds, like Series A, Series B. So I do have some experience of raising money. And I've also sat on the other side of the table. I invested in about 55 companies and funds. So I do know what it takes to raise money. I have a very limited experience about that. But yeah, so today I just wanted to kind of share what I have seen over the years about, hey, what makes great entrepreneurs. So I was lucky enough, again, to be able to see a lot of great founders over the years. I was able to invest in some of them. And the first thing that I think is what I call domain expertise and obsession. In other words, sometimes you see people who are like, hey, I'm sure like Dr. Young-Kee will relate to this because he's an institutional investor. I'm not even an institutional investor. I'm just an angel investor. But even I see some of the founders, and I'm like, hey, I have to drop everything to write a check for this person. I need to go after this person now. Otherwise, I'm not going to have any chance. So every now and then, you see those people. And I'm like, hey, what makes these people really great? Like, what are some of the common traits? So I started thinking about that. And initially, I thought it was like a charisma, right? like Riz, right? It's like, oh, that person has such a great charisma and talking really, really well. But it wasn't really, that wasn't the case. Like sometimes these are very reserved, calm people and not very like outspoken, very like introverted. You just saw Dr. Wu's presentation, right? And he's not the most like outspoken person in the world, as you have seen, but he has such a great charisma. Did you guys feel that too? Like, because I did. And you know, it was like, you know, great company, great founder. And I was like, hey, you know, I should have invested, you know, earlier. When he was talking about the $3 million seed round, I was like physically, you know, sick. I'm like, oh man, you know, I should have got in. But anyway, the point is, you know, like founders come in very, you know, various different shapes. They have different personalities. But one thing common is they have a great domain expertise and obsession. They're kind of crazy about something. I mean, they're not like crazy in general, but about a particular thing, they're really kind of crazy. And I think that's what makes people like go, like investors, like, oh, like I need to drop everything and go after him or her. It is really that, and we all have that actually. Like you have like friends who are like crazy about something, right? It can be about K-pop, it can be about tennis, it can be about like certain like weird like Nintendo games, like whatever it might be. Like there are some people who are crazy about something. And then when you try to have a conversation with that person about that topic, they go crazy, right? So we're talking about that. I'm not suggesting you have to start a company based on your hobby, but everybody has that field where they're super expert in, and because they have a lot of experience in that area, because they know everything about that area, they can come up with questions. It's like, you know, how come no one is doing this? So they can come up with a very unique perspective and very interesting and new ideas because they have a domain expertise and obsession. The second thing that I notice is it's very like deeply technical. Like the founders, they're successful, they're very technical. Just to share a little personal story, when I was at Google, I'm not a technical person. I learned coding later on, but I'm not like computer scientist. And when I went to Google, like everybody was like very technical. It was very intimidating experience. And a true story, by the way. Like this was like early on when I joined Google, and we had this big meeting where like lots of people came in, and there was like 20, 30 people, and then this new person that joined from like McKinsey or something, like a consulting company, was giving a presentation, and he was new to Google, and he was very like probably he was like putting everything he learned from McKinsey to that single presentation. It was really beautiful. It was really like, you know, he was articulating really well. But I could see like one person from the corner of my eye, one person just like not paying attention to what he was saying and then just like typing away on the keyboard. And I was like, you know, what a douchebag, right? It's like, you know, disrespectful, right? So I was like, you know, that's kind of not cool. And then when this person finished the presentation after like 20 minutes, this other guy, engineer guy, was like, done, right? And he just like built everything that the presentation said. So the presentation became kind of pointless, right? So it was. I'm not saying that's a good behavior by any chance, but kind of showing the power of like building. Like Google had such a culture of like building, like 0 or 1. Like you're either like building and shipping, or not. So very engineering-driven culture. I learned actually a lot from Google culture. No bullshit, you know, culture. So it was, you know, showing the power of, you know, technical, like engineering, like getting things done. And you know, there's a running joke in the industry where a company's valuation is like $1 million times number of engineers minus $1 million dollars times the number of MBAs. Not to disown MBAs at all, but any MBAs in the room, by the way? No? So we can diss all day long? At one? Okay. So we got to subtract the value of this room by $1 million. Just joking. So yeah, deeply technical. The third is a sympathy for people, right? So you can be very technical. You have a very interesting and unique perspective. But at the end of the day, all the presentation today was talking about the same thing, which is you got to help people. You got to actually solve the actual problem that people are having. It's very easy, especially for deep tech related companies, very easy to kind of get into the trap of, hey, my technology is the best in the world. Like you're starting from solution and then you're almost like trying to find the problem for it, like retrofitting problems into it, which is not the right approach, right? I mean, there's a saying that says, for a person with hammer, everything starts looking like a nail, right? So you're almost like it's like a reverse order. You're starting from your solution and try to find a problem, but it shouldn't be the other way around, where you have to start from a problem and then, hey, we have this problem that needs to be fixed. It can be global warming, it can be disease, whatever. And how do we like solve that, right? So that's the right order. And when we say people, it's not just about users, right? It can be about your employees, your team, really great companies. So you're starting from, you might be very brilliant engineer or scientist, but at the end of the day, you cannot build a company on your own. So you have to build a team. And you have to be able to know how to run a company, how to run an organization, how to run a team. So which is a very, very important skill. And also for investors. It's not really like brain dumping everything you know to the investors and then like giving them like a 2 hours lecture, right? I mean, that's not the point. So sometimes for fundraising, you have to be also sympathetic to the investors as well. So it's like, hey, what is this investor interested in? How can I help their firm? Is there any kind of common ground here? Which again goes back to sympathy for people. And speaking of investment and pitching, please, whatever you do, please don't like copy paste the entire academic paper onto PowerPoint slide with an 8-point font size. I mean, you can take bits and pieces and then put that on, but sometimes like I see like taking everything, the entirety of the academic paper on PowerPoint slide, which is not really recommended. So this is my last slide. So just wanted to kind of end on a very positive note, which is when it comes to starting a company, a lot of people are like, hey, I might be too late. And then if you look at media, like movies, it's like Mark Zuckerberg, he's like 21. So you have this like certain prototype of like people who are starting their companies in their early 20s. Harvard Business Review recently had a research that said average age of a successful startup founder is 45. So from what I can see, every single person in this room is under 45, probably under 30, a lot of young people here. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing like, I'm too late to start a company. That's all, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, you go with the CK?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my Starbucks name.
Your Starbucks name. Thank you, CK. You talked about this, what kind of characteristics are important. And I looked at it, and it is very close to no matter what you do. Either you are doing science and research, or academia, or industry, or startups. You're talking about domain expertise, obsession, crazy about something. I think we all need that, and I think this is a very good, that also shows your love, right? So, and getting things done, that's another thing that doesn't matter what you do. In fact, this is important. Also team building and running a team as not you as a single person, but this is really group effort. There are these days a lot of interdisciplinary effort to larger collaboration groups. So again, doesn't matter what you do, this is a quite important lesson. So it was kind of interesting that I would say similar things to probably my students or my colleagues, and you're saying that and resonating. So thank you for sharing that. Now we'll have sort of discussion sessions. We received some questions actually from you who already registered and provide the questions, and some of them are now selected for this. So I chose a couple of questions. First question can be, applied to everyone here. So we have, our distinguished guests from academia, or academia and industry and startup sort of joint or dual life, or the industry and all that, investor and all included. So I think this is a question to all of you, and we can just hear from everyone. The question is, what types of support do you think are necessary from university, research institutes, businesses, and the government to promote deep tech innovation? Specifically, what scales of funding is crucial, and at what stages? what kinds of networks and collaborations are most effective. We can have a random order. Whoever wants to start, raise your hand. We can just talk, actually, using your microphone.
That was a very difficult question. So
We
it's
have
really hard
five brains, five amazing
it's really
brains.
hard to answer in one sentence. But in general, deep tech, I think the biggest struggle is most people, all the different stakeholders, including the founders or the researchers themselves, are not able to have a long-term vision because of the way things are funded, because of the way they need to get promoted, because the way everything is set up. I think the biggest reason why the innovation is much slower than it should be is because everybody's very busy being on their wheel, trying to make sure, like, I can get my next promotion, I can get this paper published. Same in academia and same in industry. It's very, very difficult to have a long-term view when all of your incentive structure is very short-term.
Well, that's really interesting because there's a lot of similarities to I'm sure Dr. Young-Kee can tell us more about it, but like fund, for VCs, right? Like a fund cycle is like 7 to 10 years, right? And I think Dr. Lee was talking about the 15 years of basic science research. And if somebody came to the VC and then say, hey, like I need like 15 years of runway, then they're like, that's going to be my next fund. So yeah, very interesting. There's a commonality between like different industries, but like long-term mentalities, which is very difficult to maintain.
I think each and every sector from business, venture, non-venture, family office, angels, universities to public and government have all a very unique role to play. But sometimes I see them not being able to identify what their role is and why they should play that role. Businesses and governments have to collaborate, and it's very difficult for them to collaborate because of all of the conflicts and the interests that Professor Lee Jin-Young just mentioned. And we're temporally and spatially constrained. So if you want to dream the dream, the temporal and spatial constraints need to be as lifted as much as possible. And this is not possible without the multiple actors in this ecosystem coming together for a common cause that is very important and critical for mankind. And that's why I think that deep tech has been very difficult to fund. I'd like to propose in this session that it may not be such a difficult thing if you think about it, if you start from the top, which is the vision and the goal and what you want to do, and then work your way down into what are some practical things we can do. I think the problem may not be as insurmountable as some people believe.
Just following this question to you, who should set the vision and goal? It's very important, but I'm curious to know who will be able to do that.
I think it's up to, well, it varies. It depends on what the idea is, who should drive it. In the Cold War era, it was the governmental leaders, like Kennedy, who drove the entire space exploration. And right now, it's the privates. It's the Elon Musks and those sort of gentlemen and lady who sets the standards for a vision. And they're at odds with certain government institutions. So I think it changes for era. I like to think and believe that the deep tech idea and the vision does not come from an individual, but it comes from a group of individuals who work together towards making this vision possible. And I think it starts from the entrepreneur, domain expert, professor, academia, geniuses, and then it gets realized by people like CK and myself, who can then look at a problem and go, wow, okay, we can scale this. And then you have companies like Amogy and you have companies like Elvis who actually realize these dreams. I think it starts from there. But we have a long way to go, so that's a very difficult question on who should set the vision. I think it has to be an iterative process between top down and bottom up. And you got to iterate and really go through those cycles to make sure the vision is properly aligned and designed.
I completely agree with Dr. Yoon, but I think it's really important to distinguish what can be done top down and what has to be done bottom up. And it really depends on the character of the problem. when the problem is very well defined, top-down is very efficient. But a lot of problems that are very ill-defined, once you try to do it top-down, is a complete disaster. And so I think it has to be acknowledged that there are different approaches, and usually more ill-defined problems that are, you're trying to search for a solution in like a big ocean, not clear where it is. That's where unique solutions can come from a more bottom-up approach. And in those instances, it's really important to also acknowledge that a successful invention sometimes come from like one individual. It's not a group thinking result. Group thinking is accurate when the direction is well set, but when it's like a really out of the box thing, it can come through discussions, but it's usually at odds with the group's thought. And so like recognizing that and giving a chance at those things is very important for innovation.
Indeed. From academia side?
From academia's point of view, I think any kind of innovation, I think the most interesting thing is from convergence. When people from very different background. From my own research experience, it could be computer science major with AI specialty plus, say, clinicians who are working on anesthesiologists. I mean, one of the examples I showed you. I think I don't know how exactly we can encourage such a culture or environment where people from completely different backgrounds are encouraged to work together and come up with the new ideas. It could be from the government, it could be from the funders, the sponsors, academic, industry funding mechanisms, or just a culture. It could also be a cultural thing. But I think the way innovation is created, I think there are many facets of this question. And Dr. Young-Kee just said that it was a very difficult question. It's one of the reasons is that. But from my point of view, who is the most academic person in this stage, I think the way we come up with new ideas or innovation, I think a convergence sometimes of different backgrounds and expertise can go very long.
Thank you. Let me now ask another question. This is a more deep tech startup question. When a domestic deep tech startup aims to enter the global market, particularly the US, building a strong network in the US becomes crucial. An active network is often cited as one of the key factors behind Israel's startup success in the US. What strategy can be employed to strengthen deep tech startup networks that connect Korea and the US?
Yeah, just to share a little bit about my experience at Amogy. So we started from America and we are connecting with Korea a little bit, backward of the direction. But so what we realized a lot as we were building Amogy is that, deep tech general, like the heavy industry, is not dominated by like startup companies, like the Googles of the world. Instead, those companies, like the conservative companies, the way that they make decisions, the way that they move forward may be very different from what you would expect to see. So for us, really understanding their decision-making process and really investing the significant amount of the time to build a trust, to build a relationship with those companies have been very crucial for us. So we were growing, we were getting investment from like Amazon, Aramco, and those kind of the companies, but at least it took us 12 to 18 months to get the investment from them from the very first interaction. So yeah, building that long-term partnership. And also at the same time, deep tech innovation, especially in our industry, like heavy industry, is never going to be possible without collaboration. There's no way that Amogy can build this whole new industry by ourselves. You have to you have to get the trust from those incumbent players to really collaborate to build this together. So that collaborative approach and understanding their timeline and decision making was kind of one of the key learnings for at least for us at Amogy.
Professor CK, do you have opinion as a investor and as a see this kind of international collaboration between US and China will be a benefit and merit?
Yeah, so the only thing I can comment on is, so I started my own small fund called Rabbit Ventures, and I'm not a GP there anymore because I recently started my own company, but my partner is an Israeli guy. And I had an opportunity to see how the Israel ecosystem works in a very close setting, and they have an awesome community, and then they try to help each other. So like one thing, this is I'm not really like touching on I'm really touching on one particular aspect, so it doesn't really represent the entirety of it. But like one thing that I found really interesting was, so I had a chance to like go to this like Israeli event for some reason. So I was part of this other community where this was Austin, Texas, and then they had Israel and U.S. Jewish community gathering happening. But then I also happened to be part of the other community where there was a bunch of Jewish people. So I went to this event, and I was the only non-Jewish person in the entire event. So that was a really interesting experience. But one thing that I could see was, like the American-born Jewish people, and then I could also see Jewish people from Israel, and they were in the same room, and then people spoke like a very different accents. So like some people spoke with it's like a U.S. Because they were born and raised in the U.S. Some people were speaking with very different accents, but didn't really matter. Like everybody was in the same room, and then everybody was trying to help each other out. One thing that we need to do better as Korean Americans and Koreans is kind of remove the barrier between Koreans and Korean Americans. Yeah, that's like one thing that needs to happen. And the other thing that I could see was they were not trying to reinvent everything, reinvent the wheels. So Israel has a lot of playbooks that they share. So a lot of companies that we recognize as a brand, like Monday.com, I don't know if you know the company, but Monday.com is basically a $10 billion plus company. That's an Israeli company. There's very few people in the US, and a lot of people are using the solution, but then without realizing that, this was actually an Israeli company. And how is it possible? Because they have headquarters in Israel, but they have a playbook. They know exactly who to go to for launching in the U.S. market. They know exactly who can help them in terms of getting the PR. They know exactly who are the investors, right investors. And then, so they have a playbook that they share. But a lot of Korean companies, they're trying to create the playbook, every single one of them. And then when a certain company comes to the U.S. and then they accumulate the knowledge, it doesn't really get shared that much. So building that playbook, building that like a body of like a shareable knowledge, which can be shared with other Korean companies, I think that's very important.
Just to add to CK's point, when we were growing up, I grew up in Korea, in the U.S. as well. So at middle school, high school, college, I spent 10 years in Korea, before and after the U.S. Those were quite formative years for my education. And what I learned through my science high school and KAIST experience is that you're never taught to collaborate. You are not rewarded by collaborating, even at the science high school level. So imagine what the situation could have been and is now for normal schools that reward the smartest and brightest people to excel, and just that. Not to excel together, not to be influenced together, not to help each other out and collaborate and make a bigger thing, but just to individually shine. And also the Korean, obviously the college entrance exam and every evaluation that I've thought encourages people to make less mistakes as possible. So the people that you see up at the top are the people normally who make the least number of mistakes. But the people who change the world, like these people, are not the people who make the least mistakes, but these are the people who make the world happen by making something great. Although they'll make a lot of mistakes, I think that is the difference between the two cultures that I see. And I think I see a lot of encouraging signs that the next generation of Korean American entrepreneurs are not like that. But I'd also like to advise to let's see if we can remove the label of being a Korean or a Korean American, or a male or a female. Labels are important to a certain extent, but not here. And also, let's try to figure out, we're all very smart people, how we can foster the culture of extremely elite collaboration between people that come from very different backgrounds, as Sui mentioned. I think that is a seed for success later on.
Great. With that, this will conclude our discussion session, and let's thank again our speakers and panelists.